You met her. It went well. Like, genuinely well. She was laughing. The conversation flowed. There was that eye contact, the kind that lingers just a half second longer than it needs to. Maybe you got her number. Maybe you didn't, but you connected somewhere. Either way, you walked away feeling it, like something real just happened, like this one might actually go somewhere. And then you went home, and now you're in that weird zone, that in-between space where nothing has been confirmed but everything feels possible. And your brain, your overthinking, overanalyzing, worst possible scenario-generating brain, starts running. Should I text? When do I text? What do I say? How much is too much? How little is too little? Do I seem keen? Do I seem cold? Is she even thinking about me right now? Here's the thing, bro. She probably is thinking about you, but not the way you think. And what she's thinking, the specific process her brain runs in those first 48 hours after meeting someone new, is something almost no guy understands. Which is exactly why almost every guy gets this window wrong. Because this window is real. There is a psychological period right after a first meeting where impressions are still being formed, where the narrative about who you are is still being written in her mind, and what you do and don't do in this window either cements the attraction she felt or quietly unravels it. Today I'm breaking down exactly what's happening in her head during those 48 hours and what it means for how you move. Let's get into it. Number 1, she's not replaying what you said. She's replaying how you made her feel. This is the first thing you need to understand about how the female brain processes a new interaction, and it's probably the opposite of how your brain works. You go home and you replay the conversation. You think about the specific things you said, the joke that landed, the moment you stumbled on your words, the compliment you gave, the question you asked. You're analyzing the content like it's a transcript. She's not doing that. She's replaying the feeling, the emotional texture of the interaction, not the words, the energy behind them. Did she feel comfortable? Did she feel seen? Did she feel like something was happening? Did the interaction feel light and easy or slightly forced and effortful? That emotional memory, not the factual memory of what was discussed, is what she carries with her. And it's what she returns to when she thinks about whether she wants to see you again. What this means for you is simple. Stop worrying about whether you said the right things. Start asking whether you were actually present during the interaction, whether your energy was calm and genuine or slightly anxious and performing. Because she didn't store the words, she stored the vibe, and the vibe is what either pulls her back or doesn't. Number 2, she's checking whether the version of you she met was real or a highlight reel. Here's something women do instinctively that most men are completely unaware of. In the hours after meeting someone, she starts stress testing the impression. She thinks back through the interaction, and she's looking, not consciously, but instinctively, for inconsistencies. Moments where something felt slightly off, where the energy didn't quite match the words, where something seemed performed rather than genuine. Because women have been burned by the highlight reel version of men before. The guy who showed up incredible on the first interaction and then revealed himself to be something completely different once comfort set in. And her instincts have adapted to protect her from that. So she's scanning, not to find flaws, to find truth, to determine whether what she felt was a real signal or a well-constructed performance. What this means for you is that authenticity during the interaction matters more than smoothness. A moment where you were slightly awkward, but genuinely yourself, actually works in your favor here. Because it's consistent, it's real, it's something she can trust was the actual you and not a curated version designed to impress her. The guys who come across as too polished, too smooth, too perfectly calibrated, those are the ones she spends the next 48 hours feeling slightly uncertain about. Because perfect doesn't feel human, and she needs to know she met a human, not a persona. Number 3, she's deciding what category to put you in, and categories are hard to change. This is probably the most important thing in this entire video, and I need you to really sit with it. Within the first 48 hours, sometimes faster, she makes a preliminary categorization. Not always consciously, but functionally. She files you somewhere. Potential romantic interest, interesting person, but not in that way. Nice guy energy, but no spark. Someone I want to know more about. And here's the brutal truth about categories. They're not permanent, but they're sticky. Once you're filed in a particular place in someone's mental architecture, you need a significant reason for them to refile you. Inertia is powerful. First impressions create grooves. This means the window right after meeting her is the window where you still have full influence over where you land, before the category fully solidifies, before inertia takes over. And the number one thing that gets a man filed in the wrong category during this window? Behavior that contradicts the impression he made. He seemed confident and grounded during the interaction. Then, he sends 7 texts in a row that night. He seemed like a man with things going on. Then he's immediately and constantly available. He seemed like someone different, interesting, worth knowing more about. Then he acts exactly like every other guy she's met. The window is a continuation test. She's seeing if the version of you that showed up in the moment is the version that shows up after the moment. Stay consistent. The category you want to land in is still being decided. Number 4, the silence after the meeting is louder than you think. Okay? Here's the texting conversation. Because it's where most men lose this window completely, and I'm not going to gloss over it. After you meet her, there's a silence. Maybe a few hours, maybe overnight, and that silence has texture. It communicates something. Not because silence is a game, but because how a man handles the space after an interaction reveals a lot about who he is. The guy who texts within 20 minutes, before the interaction has even had time to breathe, communicates anxiety. He couldn't let the moment settle. He needed immediate confirmation that it was real, that she's still there, that he hasn't lost her already. And that energy, even in a simple, "Hey, great meeting you" text, carries that anxious frequency. The guy who waits 3 days to seem unavailable, she already knows it's a game. Women have a finely tuned radar for performed scarcity, and it's deeply unattractive because it's dishonest. The guy who reaches out the next day with something that's actually connected to the conversation you had, something specific, something that shows he was actually present and actually remembers the real details. That guy stands apart. Because it's not too fast, and it's not a game. It's just a man who has his own pace and reaches out from a genuine place rather than an anxious one. There's no perfect formula. But ask yourself before you reach out, am I texting because I have something real to say, or am I texting because the silence made me anxious? One of those is attractive. One of those needs to wait. Number 5. She's running a social comparison she'll never tell you about. Here's something nobody talks about but everyone experiences. In the hours after meeting someone new, the brain naturally starts comparing. Not in a cold, calculated way, just instinctively. She's contextualizing you within her existing landscape of people and experiences. How does this feel compared to other interactions she's had? What's different about this one? What's similar? And if you made a genuine impression, if something real happened during the interaction, you will win that comparison without even knowing it's happening. Because real is rare. Most interactions in her world are fine, polite, pleasant, forgettable. When something actually lands differently, it stands out sharply against that background. But here's where it goes wrong. If your behavior in the 48 hours after the meeting falls into the familiar, predictable pattern, the immediate text, the generic follow-up, the eager availability, you start to blur back into the landscape. You start to look like the pattern rather than the exception to it. So protect the impression you made. Don't dilute it with behavior that makes her go, "Oh, he's just like the others after all." The first interaction earned you a specific position in her mind. Don't talk yourself back out of it with a mediocre follow-up. Be the exception all the way through, not just in the moment, Number 6. She's noticing what you're not doing as much as what you are. This one is subtle but powerful. During the 48-hour window, your restraint communicates as much as your action, maybe more. Every guy reaches out right away. The fact that you didn't, and waited until you had something genuine to say, communicates patience, confidence. A man who isn't running scared of the silence. Every guy leads with compliments about how beautiful she is. The fact that you lead with something specific and real, something connected to who she actually is rather than what she looks like, communicates that you actually paid attention, that she's not interchangeable with the last attractive woman you met. Every guy makes it immediately obvious that he's interested. The fact that your interest is present but not desperate, that you're clearly engaged but not performing, communicates that your attention is something you give selectively, not something she automatically receives just by existing near you. What you hold back in this window tells her something. It tells her you're comfortable, that you don't need to offload everything immediately, that you have a pace that belongs to you and you're not adjusting it out of fear. Restraint reads as strength when it comes from a real place. Know what's worth saying. Say that. Let the rest breathe. And number 7, the one that closes the window permanently, one way or the other. Number 7. At some point in those 48 hours, she makes a decision, and the only thing that influences it is whether she felt something she wants to feel again. Everything comes back to this. All the psychology, all the comparison and categorization and impression stress testing. It all funnels into one single question she asks herself about you, usually without even realizing she's asking it. Do I want to feel that again? Not, is he good for me? Not, does he check my boxes? Not, would this make sense on paper? Just, do I want more of that feeling? And that question gets answered based on one thing: whether the feeling you created during the interaction was real enough, interesting enough, safe enough, and alive enough that her brain files it as something worth returning to. You can't manufacture that with the right text. You can't engineer it with the perfect follow-up line. It either happened during the interaction or it didn't. And if it did, if you were genuinely present, genuinely yourself, genuinely interested without being desperate, then the 48 hours after is just about not undoing what you already built. Don't text too much. Don't go silent like you're... Don't perform availability. Don't perform unavailability. Just be a man who had a genuine moment with someone, who reaches out from a real place when he has something real to say, and who trusts that what happened in the room was enough to do the work without being dismantled by what happens after. Because here's the truth, bro. If the interaction was real, the attraction is already there. Your only job in the 48 hours after is to confirm that the man she met is the man who exists outside that room too. That's it. That's the whole assignment. Be consistent, be calm, be genuine, and let the window close naturally, on the right side of it. Look, most guys blow this window not because they're bad at this, but because nobody ever explained that the window exists. You thought the work happened during the interaction. Now you know it extends past it. That alone puts you ahead of the vast majority of men she'll meet. The interaction got you in the door. The 48 hours is where you decide if that door stays open. Go back through these 7 right now and be honest with yourself about which one you've been getting wrong. Because there's definitely one. There always is. And that one is your starting point.